Lenten Lunchtime Lesson with Father Andrew of the Society of Divine Compassion. Saturday, after the fourth Sunday in Lent. There arose great tempest in the sea, insomuch that the ship was covered with the waves, but he was asleep. Matthew 8, verse 24. There are two great gospel episodes which tell of Christ's presence in a storm. There is this episode when the disciples followed him into the ship and so followed him into the storm. And there's the episode which comes in St. John's Gospel when our Lord sent his disciples forth and they so soon as to face the perils of the sea. On both occasions, the experience of the storm was a result of obedience to vocation. He led them into one storm. He sent them to meet another. There are shallow ideas of Christianity in which people think of their religion as an escape from the storm. Their idea of peace is finding comfort and being saved from trouble, and if, having espoused the doctrine of Christ, they find that their religious obedience brings to them the challenge of conflict, their faith fails, and they begin to think that they are being badly treated by that very God whose symbol we have always thought to think about as a cross. What we have to learn is that our religion is a giving, not a getting. As each day we face the day and try to consecrate our conscious hours to the deliberate service of God, we have to learn to have a holy carelessness about the weather through which our soul's bark is about to sail. The point is not, am I to face a storm or am I to have a fair weather? The point is, am I trying to live my life in obedience to God? If I am, and then I find myself in a storm, I can comfort myself with this thought: I am in this storm because I am obeying him. It was in obedience to Christ that the apostles had their experience, and for us also, the question is not whether days are difficult or easy, but only whether they are following the vocation of God. If we are doing right as well as we know how, we need not fear of his vocation that sends us into a storm. Our first thought is then that we must always keep in our minds the desire to do God's will and not our own, to seek Christian duty and not worldly pleasure, service and not safety. St. John was spoken of as the disciple whom Jesus loved. He was the Lord's companion, and the thought of Christ's companionship is the keynote of his gospel. But his storm story, when the apostles are bid into the boat, Jesus climbed the mountain and gave himself to prayer for them. He saw them storm-tossed, and he came to them over the waters. His strong companionship brought them courage. His presence was with them in the storm and in the boat was realized, and all was well. In St. Matthew's narrative, the human side of Christ's companionship is emphasized. He is with his disciples in the boat as one themselves, a tired man, asleep through the sheer weariness, asleep even in the storm, as people will sleep now through a noisy siren, as if they are dead tired. The great companion in St. John's pages comes to them over the waters. In St. John's telling, he was with them all the while in the storm-tossed boat. We have the presence of Christ with us in the stormy days. He comes to us walking over the waters. He is with us in the ship. Let us try to draw forth from our religious experience and sacramental communion something of the richness of the sense of the companionship of Christ, which his saints have known. In all the stories of our Lord's cures and miracles of mercy, we are struck by the completeness of his mastery. When he rebuked the winds and the waves, his word, his will, went to the off-center of the storm. When he healed, his word and his will touched the very cause of the disease. The whole condition of the leprous man whom he healed was healed at the source. The power of Christ was the only power that can go to the real heart of our need. There are three kinds of storms: physical, mental, and spiritual. There are three shadows over our lives: sin, suffering, and death. There is nobody who can completely heal our lives or bring us salvation but Christ our Lord. We can have utter confidence in his power to heal and to save. Faith on our side is necessary for the full release of the power on his side. When we were sinners, he died for us, and when we were far away, he loved us still, and he can do, as does do, many things for us in spite of us. But as we learn to come to him in complete confidence and to banish from our souls every alien discordant note of selfishness, which mars our correspondence with his saving grace, we begin to enter into his peace and to savor his power, and to know that the Christ who may send us into a storm and is our companion in the darkness will also make us sharers of his victory and grant us to know the completeness of his power to heal and to save.